Hey guys, my name's Kelsey. Today we're going to do a different intro. I'm going to tell you what I am not a professional in today. I am not a pediatrician, okay? I am not who you should be taking your children to if they need a medical diagnosis. No shit, Sherlock. You know, right? It should be pretty self-explanatory, but stay with me. Hi guys, for those of you who don't know, my name is Kelsey. I'm a spicy educator, a somatic sex and intimacy coach, and I specialize in alchemizing trauma and conditioning into pleasure. Let's get into it. Here's the deal, you guys. I think that we can acknowledge that we can be professionals in our industries and experts in our industries, and even if there is overlap, right, we can take a step back and go, am I fully qualified to talk on this topic, okay? And I say that because in order for us to truly maintain the credibility of calling ourselves professionals and experts within any given field, we really do have to take personal responsibility and accountability for how we choose to present ourselves in topics that there might be overlap in per se, but not necessarily that we're experts in, okay? So I'm going to piggyback off of my last post that I did, all right? This particular post has brought a lot up for people, and it was really interesting because I think one of the biggest issues that I had with it was that the person presenting this was fully coming at it on, I am a professional licensed therapist, and that is why I am qualified to speak on this, right? And then you had those of us that are professionals in the industry, people that don't even consider themselves professionals per se, but are what I am going to start referring to as lifestyle ambassadors, right? And that is they have been so well immersed within the community for so long, right, that their lived experience contributes so much to the conversation, right, that I would borderline consider them also an expert, right, in this lifestyle, within this community, right? And so I think that's something that we really, really, really need to pay attention to. And when we're talking about things in relation to peer reviewed, right, I think that this is really important because instead of racing to post something on the internet from a space of a projection and a trigger rather than from actual education and science and understanding, right, a lot of that post was a lot of shaming, right? A lot of kind of the toxic purity culture that I talked about, right? And I think it would have been such a beautiful conversation if we had brought in people from the community and from the lifestyle into the conversation and said, I'm really triggered by this, and this is my opinion on this, but I would like to bring in a different lens, a different point of view, a different perspective from somebody that maybe has a little bit more of a specialty, right, within human sexuality, within kink, within the lifestyle that is actually LGBTQ, right? Because I hate to say this, you guys, but as much education as you have, if all you've got is reading a textbook and you don't have the life experience to then be able to process that information and digest that information and relate to it in a healthy way, it's just words on a page, right? And because of that, you will never tell me that what you read in a book is more of a priority for us to listen to than other people's lived experiences, right? I see this a lot, honestly, with women of color, right? This was actually something that was presented I think it was on this app, right? But it was somebody who was a white female who was talking about something in relation to Black history. This is what she'd studied. She went and got like her full degree specifically studying Black history. And a Black woman came into the comment section and said, yeah, this is kind of how I relate to that information though. Like not even necessarily calling her incorrect, right? But just saying, I have a different life experience than that. And this particular person who was like, I'm an expert in everything Black history, right? Kind of then went to shame this Black woman for speaking up about her lived experience and saying, I have an education and I have a degree in this, your life experience as a Black woman is not more important than the education that she got, even though she's a white woman. Do you see what I'm saying, right? I will always prioritize having that conversation with that Black woman and her lived experience, especially if she's coming to the conversation trying to give a different life perspective and a different point of view. Yeah? So I think that's also something that's really, really important, and really relying on collaborations, right? And starting to follow different people. And I think this is the other thing that I think several people have talked about this, right? But you cannot sit here and say that you're LGBTQ friendly and then post that video, right? What you have actually now told a lot of the community that is LGBTQ is that you actually aren't safe. And it's very difficult for people within the LGBTQ community to find representation and to find support and doctors and therapists and counselors that can support them and what they might be going through in their lived experience, right? And the differences that the different cultural experiences that they probably have simply in identifying as LGBTQ, right? Because some people want to take that and make it mean anything more than what it does, right? So I think that that's really important, and that's the other really big issue that I had with it. And if I'm gonna be totally, totally honest with you, I think that there is a reason why we have so much going on from a political perspective on why we aren't listening to the experts in our field, right? We have a whole bunch of people that have kind of come out and gone, I'm not listening to the experts, they're not qualified, right? And in order for us to do that, it's starting to hail, it's starting to rain, I love it. But in order for us to stay credible and to be able to have our credentials and our experience and the words professional and experts and licensures and certifications, right? In order for that to mean anything, we have to maintain a certain level of ethics on what we're going to hold ourselves accountable for, right? Because when you have people now coming into this conversation and going, wait a minute, the licensed therapist over here is saying this, right? But these people are over here also saying that they're experts in this field and they're saying something completely different. Now we have people coming to this conversation going, who do I trust, right? And who actually is the expert, right? And then we start to move through things on, I'm going to agree with you because you support my lifestyle, my projections, my point of view, my frame of reference, rather than looking at things from a neutral ground on, okay, how are we going to present this information in an unbiased way? Yeah. So collaborate, reach out to people, sit with things when they are uncomfortable prior to running through, right? And creating a video that actually has a lot of harm attached to it. The other thing that I will say on that, you guys, is like, for me, this person has completely, all of the credibility is gone for this particular person, right? And I would really love to know if, the views that this person got and the likes and the bandwagon of targeting this and the attack dogs that came with it, I really hope that those likes and those views were worth the damage that you potentially did within the community and the damage that you potentially did to other LGBTQ people. Because as somebody who deals with trauma, right, within this frame, as somebody who deals with conditioning, as somebody who helps people deconstruct all of that, to be able to step into their most authentic selves, right? I can tell you that I have received so many comments on how uncomfortable this made them feel and how angry and how upset and how attacked that they felt, even though they weren't the ones necessarily the primary topic of discussion within that post, right? But they have enough of like a proxy relation to it within their lifestyle that they did feel completely attacked. So that's another thing that I will say is you can't really call yourself an LGBTQ friendly counselor or an advocate or even an ally with this post. And my hope would be that there's some reflection to that.